Hello everybody.
Hello.
Hey. Welcome to this Tavola Aperta. This is a special program that Christine Massel wanted for this year's 57th International Art Exhibition called Viva Arte Viva. It's an occasion to have a wonderful conversation with the artists exhibiting in this exhibition. And our guest today is McArthur Binion, who we have the privilege and honor to have with us today. So thank you very much for coming. And also I want to welcome all our guests. McArthur Binion is exhibiting for the first time at the Venice Biennale.
That's true.
And it's the first time you're in Venice also.
Well, now the second time.
Okay.
Because I was here for the opening.
Of course.
So.
As most of you, I think, know, he is exhibiting here in the Central Pavilion at the Giardini in the Pavilion of Artists and Books with 7 paintings. I wanted to start by asking you, how did this whole thing happen? How was your encounter with Christine?
Yeah. It's kind of, it fits with my thinking about the work speaks for itself. Like I've always been that person. And the opening was in May. Christine came to this gallery, my gallery in New York, which is Gallery of the Long, to visit like another artist to see if she wanted to put in the Biennale. Mm-hmm. And she saw my work on the wall and said, "Who's that?" And then she followed the work to Frieze, and then she followed to Basel, Switzerland, and she invited me to be in the show. So that's how it happened. I really like how it happens because, like, I had opportunities when I was a younger painter, young artist, and I turned them down because it wasn't on my terms and it wasn't about only their work. Because other stuff, you know, being an artist, like, you know, it's like I'm really focused on the studio and all the, you know, other stuff I'm retired from, so to speak. You know, all the parties and, you know, et cetera. I don't do those anymore.
But
that's
you
my
did in the past.
Wife laughing at me, yeah. No. I mean, I lived in New York. I moved there as I was 26 years old. And to be honest with you, I saw the sunrise every day for 10 years straight. So I had a good life there. I mean, I had fun. You know,
Yeah, we had for those of you, just to inform you, we had a wonderful conversation this morning about, we talked about a lot of things. One of the things we didn't talk about, or actually we talked about how you work in your studio. And I didn't ask you about your artist practice video, right. Which is actually exactly probably the way you work in your studio. Yeah. What is curious in the video, it's a very short video, 1 minute I think long.
Of me?
Yeah. You don't know?
No. Oh, yeah. Okay.
And it's a very, very short video that just portrays part of your studio, right?
Yeah.
And it portrays the most important things, which are the oil sticks,
the oil
mainly.
Sticks. Yes.
And what is curious, it's I think one of the only videos that doesn't have sound.
I love that. Yeah. Like. Yummy. That's because what happened was that I think 8 or 7, somewhere between 6 and 8 years ago, I decided that I didn't want anyone's thinking or brilliance or genius coming into my head. So I stopped listening to music while I work, and I don't read anything. So and I did that because I was hoping, and it turned out to be true, hoping that only me will emerge as opposed to being merging with things on your back, and you're like carrying artists or books, and I have none of that, so it's all coming from me, and so there's no sound in my studio. So
Yeah.
that's why there's no sound.
It's interesting. How do you work every day?
How?
How do you work? I mean, what's your routine?
My routine is I wake up without like an alarm, somewhere between 5:45 and 6:15. I used to make my daughter's lunch every day, but she just started university. So I'm in this, and I don't drink coffee or anything. I drink water only, and I go to the studio. I'm there by before 7:30. I'm working by 8, and I do it, and I leave between 3 and 4. I do it every day. Well, I do it every day at home.
Yeah, because when you look at your paintings, there's this. I think all of you saw them. I don't know how close you went to see them, because they are you reproduced on the series that's exhibited here.
Yeah.
There are reproductions of your birth certificate
yes.
and of your address book.
Yes.
And then they're oil stick painted over that.
Those, yeah.
So actually, when you look at them from far away, you don't see
Right.
what's beneath.
Right.
You
Right.
have to go close,
Right.
and you have to look through them.
Right.
But there's a lot of repetition, iteration, and it's something I think has to do also with a lot of discipline.
Yeah, like it's also my feeling, and this is kind of a musical term, maybe. Excuse me. It's not a musical term, but it's how I see the world. Is that if I'm constant in repeating, I'm able to allow the emotional content to rise up higher. You know, so if I keep it constant, I can use my emotional swings like easier. So also I know exactly what I want, and I leave space for some kind of magic to happen. But also it's like my address book. I moved to New York from 1973, and I lived there till 1990, and I kept the same address book. Everybody I know in my life is in that book. So every time I see a name, I see a face 40 years ago. So it's like that. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Cool.
It's something very personal.
Oh, it's personal. It's like it's very, like, you know, I don't love everybody in that book. so it's like sometimes it's very hard. I mean, but the good thing is that I don't live in New York anymore. So I have that space between my old life and my current life, which is very rewarding.
Yeah. When did you start using putting your birth certificate and your address book in your paintings, and why?
Okay. Like, first of all, I'm gonna say something it might sound weird, but like my thinking is that once you start the language about a painting, you move away from the painting. So in like some ways I think that nothing written has anything to do with the work. But why is that? Okay, I have this address book, and if you could see it, like I use black ink, blue ink, brown ink, like all the, and I I just, well, it took me 15 years to figure out how to use it. Um, and I had never used anything in my paintings that was recognizable. And it became a kind of a personal challenge for me to figure it out. And what'd you ask me again?
Why did you?
Why? Well,
And
why?
why did
No,
you
no, no,
choose
no, no,
those two things
no, that's good.
and not?
Why? Because they're all mine. It has nothing to do with anyone else. And also, these guys might not agree with this, but I'm quietly super competitive. And so I want to use something that no one's ever used. And which goes back to when we started, like, I'm fairly certain, 99.9%, that I'm the first person to use paint sticks as an art form. So, so I've always, and that was in 1972, long before Jean-Michel Basquiat, long before Richard Serra. So I've always been seeking, like never befores, and that gets me to, this is going to sound really odd, but my work doesn't come from art history. So I'm always looking outside of the historical canon and all that.
So where does it come from?
Inside here. It really comes from me. I made myself up.
So, sì, certo. Prego. Yes.
Come on.
Questions, of course,
Questions
are
is good,
welcome.
except from those two.
It works.
I'm sorry. No, I'm
Okay.
sorry.
Why you use the grid?
The what?
Why use the grid?
Yeah,
What does mean, grid, for you?
That's what I was trying to say earlier, is that I didn't get to, it's a musical phrase like, well, number one, I think the grid I love the grid. But if I keep, that's my constancy. And so if I keep it constant, I can make the other things swing more. You know what I mean by swing? Like, swinging. So, and also, yeah, that's why. Understand, or you want? Ask me more. Ask me more if you want, about because that's a very important thing to me that I think about. Now, when I use my address book, the grid, they're all different. But when I use my birth certificate, it's all the same.
Could you please use the microphone?
Yes, it's interesting for me, the title, DNA, because from a biological point of view, the personal DNA changes continuously during life.
Right.
And in your work, in my opinion, is not so. It's curious.
No. See, but
it's like no change identity in our society. I don't know. It's an idea.
Well, what happens is that the first layer, the layer on my painting, like I call that the underconscious of the work. and then I had to either ink and paint on top of that. But I have to say something I've only said 2 times. I don't know if you guys know, but there's also an alternative meaning to DNA, and it's and I'll tell you, it's Detroit Negro artist. That's really funny to me because it's just funny. I was.
You grew up in
Yes,
Detroit, right?
this is where I grew up from age 4 to 25 to 21 years. So it's kind of a play on the word. You know what I mean? Good, good. But I tell you guys, questions are good. Questions
Yes,
are good.
of course.
Yes,
Please, just I would just kindly ask you to use the microphone.
Hello.
Hey.
You said at the beginning, in answer to the first question, that you like the fact that the artwork speaks for itself.
See.
So I'm interested in your perspective on the viewer of the artwork, because it also seems to me, you describe in your process, that your works are very personal and come from you.
See.
So when the art speaks for itself, in my mind, when I look at a piece of artwork and I haven't read anything about it,
Right.
it speaks to me and my experiences and my imagination. So it becomes, do you feel in that moment that you lose somehow ownership of the work, and does that matter to you?
No, it doesn't matter at all. And you know, like getting your point, my preferred, you know, what I would really like to happen when people would look at the work, like what I would like you to do, see the work and respond by emotionally crying. I mean, that's what I'm after. Like to really affect the viewer, like that much. And that's another reason why I use the grid, because I want it's recognizable. I want it to be constant, and then add on to the constancy. Does that answer you? You sure? Cool.
Any other? Yes, please.
I recently went to an exhibit of Andrew Wyeth, and his granddaughter gave the tour.
Okay.
And explained that every critic who writes about what his paintings mean are wrong.
I love it.
And it was nothing like that at all. And she was bothered by this. Do a lot of critics come up with suppositions of your work, and does that bother you?
Well, it's going to surprise us too. To be honest with you, I haven't read anything about myself.
Okay.
Because it's like, I don't want anyone else's feeling about my work being in my head. So it's all going out. I don't want anything going in, because going in is not about me. Going in is about them. So.
Any questions on this side?
Now it's on you.
Now it's on me. Yeah, sure. Please.
Thank you. It goes back to the idea of the grid and biography, because I'm really interested. Well, I did read the description of your work, and I saw that it came from this idea of biography. And the grid to me, well, despite the title DNA, the grid to me feels like digital. And I'm interested in whether you have a digital life and whether you think about digital biography. So what you used were kind of very material, you might say old school signs of biography.
Right.
Is that something that has ever come into your work, or you ever think about? Do you expose yourself to that kind of input from the outside world when you're in the process?
No, I don't look at work online or anything like that. But like what happens is that my work inadvertently is about the internet. I mean, but it has nothing to do with it. But I make copies. So yeah.
Also, because it's difficult to see your
Pardon?
it's difficult to look at your work on the internet.
Yeah, I mean,
either it's photographed in detail,
Yeah.
or you actually never
You don't-
see
you know what I'm
what's see
Well,
through it.
for me, it's very important because I want to have an experience. The viewer to have an experience from far away, and when they get up close, oh shit! It's like, so for me, it's very important to have that. And most art is only from here. When you get up close, you see the same thing. But when you get up close to mine, you have a whole other world, which, to me, that's the most exciting part of my work. But there's another point, is that I never understand artists that love their own work. Because if you love your own work, you kind of stop. You just place I love myself and all that. So in every painting I see of mine, I see something wrong with it, which I'm very happy about.
Yeah, sure. And also, it's if you want, it's a lunch, so
It's a
please
lunch, you
eat.
guys,
Also, when you
Oops. Here, guys. Why don't you guys get started with that?
when you look at it
Uh-huh.
from far away, and then you go close,
Yes.
and you discover all
Yeah.
all this background,
Yeah.
and then you go further back, you return back,
Yeah.
you see it in a different
Did
way.
a whole different way. I liked her question about the grid because, I'm still trying to solve those issues in the work, like every day.
Yeah, you wanted to ask another question? Yeah.
That's why I'm not.
Take
gonna
your
eat.
time.
That's why the food I'm not going to eat now. I need when it's over, like talking.
I mean, I just wanted to say that my reaction looking at your work was that my feeling was, I liked it. That was it. And then, but that doesn't mean
Right.
so much. The next thing was that this whole tapestry of connections and address book and a page of that made me feel of something related to all the connection, all the I don't know, the moving life of relationship and connection. And the grid seemed to be, I don't know whether a protection of that or a point. No, it's just my reaction.
No.
Or a fixed point into this waving sea of connection that you said that they've been there for 40 years, so
Right.
how long?
Right.
So some are not there any longer,
Right,
some
yeah,
are new and so on. So it's been waving. And so maybe the grid, I don't know, that was my feeling, my association.
Cool. Nice.
And the grid is something that gives some, is not a sea.
I see.
It's
I get
not
that.
a sea.
I got that.
Is a mooring or something like this.
Yeah, the thing about the address book, and it kind of gets to her point down there in the end there, is that when I started this book, all until all the 70s or 80s, you only had contact with people three ways: face-to-face, telephone, or the mail. So it was a whole different feeling, different time, and so I'm bringing that back to the work. Like this is like pre, Stephen Jobs and all that stuff. But that's just something I'm gonna say.
You hardly need an address book now. It's all in
Yeah.
Well, it's not the original.
Yes, it is.
But
You mean
our
those?
yeah,
No,
those are copies.
not yet. No, I would have made one painting and it'd have been done.
Yeah.
That would have been very unhappy.
Are there any other questions? So, how did you start? How did you get
Pardon?
into art?
Pardon?
When did you decide to become an artist?
God,
How did you
You're gonna want
decide?
to know everything. Yeah. Jesus.
I mean, I know because
I know
we
because I
talked.
told you earlier. I got to reveal all that. Which part of it should I talk about? Like, I mean,
Whatever you
well,
choose.
I started as a teenage writer. I was a young poet, and I dropped out of school, and I moved to New York and had this job as a associate editor of a small new magazine in Harlem. And the editor sent me to deliver a package to the president of the Museum of Modern Art, and I had never gone into a museum in my life. And I saw painting as a philosophical nature, and it just changed. It changed my life. I had never thought about painting ever. I didn't know anything about painting. And then I dropped out of school again. I went to Europe, played around a little bit, and then it took me 2 years to get enough nerve to take a drawing class. And I like in my life, I would like everything I tried, I was really good at. And I had never drawn before. It was so that, like after that, I like cried like a baby. It was like this like emotionalness, and I decided then I drew 40 hours a week for 2 years, and that's how it started.
But did you continue going to museums?
Oh yeah, after that, yeah.
Because you said your art is not related to art history,
Oh, no,
but did
no.
you continue going to museums?
No, like for me, I'd last in the museum about a half hour. I would go to the museum, see one piece, I mean, I don't get a lot of it. Like, I'm not a person that loves like Rembrandt and that kind of stuff.
And then you went to study to Cranbrook.
And then I went to Cranbrook Academy of Art, and there I recognized that my work didn't come from art history. So I was looking for something outside of art history, and therefore I started on painting, oil paint, like every other student, oil paint, and then that's where I looked for something that was outside of, had been used all through art history, and that's how I found the paint sticks. And when I found paint sticks, they weren't called paint stick yet, because no one had used them for art, and they were called marking crayons. So I was, I started the thing.
It's curious because it has also maybe to do with the fact that you also started studying writing, and, and it has something to do with writing the way you.
In the end, it does, because like people see and they think it's my journal or something. It's my journal. I mean, but yeah, that's all I want to say about that. Yeah, true.
Also, because you have the writing from the address book, but also all the oil stick lines. They look like it has. I mean, you use it in the same way you might use a pen or a pencil.
Absolutely. Yeah. And also I work with the right and left hand.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm. For the paint sticks, for what I'm doing now, there's a level of accuracy that I need, and my right hand is more. I use it more, but I'm presently right now working on my left hand to build up, because my right arm is like way overused. So I want to start using my left more. What else did we? I mean, there's so many. Oh, also, this is really funny. This is not really funny. I never talk about my art. This is a rare. I don't talk about art like, and just this is very. It's not hard for me at all, but it's very unusual. Like because, I mean, like I said to people, like smart isn't special anymore. because everyone's smart, like because you have these little phones that everything's in there. So I don't know if that made any sense, but
The work speaks for itself.
there you go. There you go. She helped me out. No, but and the work I'm doing now, which goes back to my birth certificate. On the birth certificate, there's a like this is one from the South in America, and it's like white on black, and it says like it says name of mother, address Route 1 Box 2, and that's the house I was born in, and my 8 other brothers and sisters were born in the house. And my show, which opens October 26th, in case anyone's in New York, is called Route 1 Box 2. And so what I have now, I have my birth certificate and the photograph of the actual house I was born in Macon, Mississippi, and I paint over that. And these are the most highly emotional work I've ever done. I'm working in like crying and stuff like that. So I'm really, I definitely think this is my best work ever. Like, and also for you guys, I'm also opening in Milan, September of next year, of 1918. Right, Victoria? Cool. So,
well, for Milan, we should be able to
come
make
on,
it. Yeah.
Come on up.
So you studied at Cranbrook, and you were also, well, Cranbrook is probably one of the most famous and important art schools in the United States, and you were the first black American.
I was the first black MFA.
MFA, yeah. And then you moved to New York.
Yeah, I finished school in May, and I moved to New York in June.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how was the art scene in New York in the 70s?
It was marvelous. It was small, and also this was long before anything was called the art world. That happened in the 80s. So it was a very small community. Like, and also, art dealers, museum people were honored to come to artist studios. That's not true today. And it was like when I'm in New York, it was like you had opportunities, but you wanted to be in the studio for 5 to 10 years before you exhibited, because you want the work to grow. Like, and it's not the same today, and it's really, it really makes me feel sad, like for young artists, because there's so much pressure to succeed. And without, standing there and working for years and years and then getting to work right. Like you stand and you work many years, you get to work right for yourself. You have to work fast and do something. Like, it's for someone else then. So I think a lot of work, I shouldn't say this, but I think a lot of work out now is just premature. And it makes me sad a bit. She has a question. She's like thinking. He's thinking.
I'm thinking.
No, she's.
Yeah, please.
The ladies down there, you guys have some questions? Was that? No. I want you to come on back in. No. Yeah, it was funny. Yeah.
Is it okay,
Yes, please.
A lot of the work that I've seen, and I only had an hour to look around quickly this morning, a lot of the work I've seen at the Biennale has been very political. A lot of artwork that I encounter when I go to galleries is very political.
Right.
Your work seems to me to be very personal from what you've spoken about here. But I wonder, the alternative title, DNA, seems it could have political connotations.
Yeah.
So what role does politics have in your artwork?
Yeah, it's a good question. Politics and money are in a side in my work. Like those things just happen to happen. Like without my intellectual, like I want this to happen because of who I am and things like that. But yeah. But no one, I think now there's 30-some people here, but no one, I haven't mentioned a Detroit Negro artist yet. Because I haven't.
And how was it being a black artist in New York in the 70s? Because those were also the years of the civil rights movement.
Yeah, it's like, how was it? Like for me, I've always been good. Like with those kind of issues. Yeah,
were you involved in the civil rights movements, etc.?
Like earlier, I was really young, yeah. But I decided early on to be an artist, and so I moved. But like when you look at the work, when you look at the birth certificate and all that stuff, you think politics because I'm an American black person. And but getting back to the 1970s, like it was so good because it was really small and concentrated, and people worked in their studios like every day.
Yeah.
And you can't afford to do that anymore because you got to go out, and make things happen. Yes.
Is there a question down there? No. Also,
it's over. No.
You told
I'm
me
teasing,
before
I'm teasing.
you're one of the rare artists that work today that that doesn't have any assistants. You do.
No.
Where you go?
Okay, go. What's your question?
No, it was a comment more than a question.
Well, I said to her that on my work, there's only two hands. No one's ever put paint on my painting. It's a very rare thing today because all the successful artists I know have many hands on their work. And that's another reason why the emotional content is there, because someone else can't put my emotional content on the painting. It's just like, and it's becoming, in fact, I did a big talk at like an Aspen a couple years ago, and there was a lot of people there. I told them the fact that no one's ever has asked for paint on my painting with them, and they applauded. It was like, yeah. Yes, ma'am.
So, yeah.
Get that mic.
I'm a tour guide at a local museum at home in New York, and I have I guess, traditional love of traditional art, painting and such. So the various new mediums are new to me,
right.
Installation and such, and I love the skill as well in your work. And do you have any comments on the current art scene? You had mentioned artists who have very large staffs and assistants, and the art world has changed quite a bit, driven a lot, I think, by money and such.
Yeah.
Any comments on the state of the art world?
Oh, yeah, it sucks. No. No, I mean, I'm very pro-artist and all that stuff, I'll say I'm glad I don't live in New York anymore. I'll say that. No. No, I mean, I know a lot of artists that are doing really well and they're doing really good work. And it just, the thing about it's increasingly becoming harder, like to make art, I think. And you like because you need more money, you need more hands, and I like where I am. That's as yeah, I mean, I don't want to be negative about artists, yeah, because I love people that make art. But I'm glad I got my own hands on my own work, and there's no one else's. I'll say that.
So you lived in New York for. You want to ask a question? Yes, please.
What will be happen with your paintings after the Biennale?
Pardon?
What will be happen with the paintings after the Biennale?
Those in there?
Yeah.
Those 7? They're all in. Like when I came, there were 4 already that were sold, and the other 3 were they're all gone. So one goes to San Francisco Museum of Art. I forget. Like, I really don't follow myself. I don't know. Like me, I'm a real studio artist. I'm a studio rat, kind of. And so the other stuff doesn't really interest me.
The gallerist is taking care. You have a gallerist in New York and one in Italy.
I have a gallery in New York, gallery in London, and a gallery in Italy. And they take really good care of the work, and I don't have to think about that anymore. I can just paint, which is a really great feeling. The thing like, this has to go, I have to make the money here, do that. I just work, which is a marvelous thing to be able to do. Does it answer you? Yes. Cool. Come on, all you quiet people, ask me something. You guys too, ask me something.
Are there any questions also from the back? Would you like to ask? So,
here you go. This woman has a. This is going to be a hard question.
I'm going to let you off easy.
No.
Well, maybe not. It sort of has to do with the art history comment you keep making.
That's my wife,
I'm
by
not
the way.
I'm not going to check you on it too much, but do you want to tell people what you're planning for an upcoming show with the Saarinen? That might be interesting to people.
You guys know about Saarinen? Saarinen, Eliel Saarinen, the father of Eero Saarinen. He conceived of and designed and built Hamburg Academy. And over the last about 8 or 9 years, I've been thinking about the project called Binion's Binion Saarinen, and I proposed it to the museum, and they loved the idea. And that show's going to open November 18th, 2018. And so what I'm going to do, I was in this space for 2 years. I knew it really well. I did everything there. I dropped acid there. I took mescaline there. I was like, real. This is 71 to 73. I know the space really well. And so they're going to commission a major painting as well as working drawings, maybe a couple of smaller paintings. And then I'm going to pull from their museum collection, I'm going to pull the architect's, his furniture, his drawings, working drawings, and I'm really excited about this project because it's going to be a really hard project, I think, and I like hard things to do because they're up there and it's a drive-up challenge.
One thing
Yes.
I didn't ask you before.
She has a question. Down there? Oh, sorry.
How much influence does architecture have on you? Does it have any influence? Especially maybe Chicago's.
It has a quiet influence on me. I don't want it to be too large because I think architecture is really powerful. And therefore, my Saarinen, working with him is kind of a challenge. It's a big challenge to me. I don't think it has much. I don't think it has much to do.
Yeah, I was thinking about it because we were talking about Mies van der Rohe's architecture in Chicago, etc. And I was thinking about the skyscrapers that also have a lot of grids.
That's
which is
true.
a very indirect connection. But I was curious since you've been living in Chicago for the past.
Not that I know of really. I don't know if I'm really that influenced by architecture. I love great spaces, though. So that's spaces are very, very important to me. So maybe I am, but I don't know yet.
Do you still teach?
I retired from teaching 2 years ago.
Okay.
And I didn't teach from 75 to 93, and I became an artist, because I wasn't, teaching.
And then why did you decide to teach?
Why?
Yeah.
Because I was starting. I didn't want to get married again with no salary. That's a bad idea. A bad idea, man. So. Yeah.
And how was your teaching experience?
I was considered an academic outlaw. I mean, for me, it was like really old school. I just taught the students. I didn't do the meetings and that and all of the stuff that, like now when you teach, you can't make art because they want you there, like almost whole time. So it's really hard to teach and make art. Yeah, I mean, so that's why I was the academic outlaw.
And what did you teach your students? What did you teach your students? When you have a young person in front of you who wants to
probably
become an artist?
I didn't hold hands with the student and bring them along the way. I mostly wanted them to find out who they are, and therefore you can start making art about real stuff as opposed to most students learn. Look, let's do this one. If you listen to most teachers and you think about them, you will end up making work just like them. Because they don't allow you, because most teachers are thinking that the students don't know enough. I'm thinking they do know enough, and the student has to find it. So that's how I taught.
That's very interesting. Yes, please.
Did you find that when you were teaching it took away your own creative energy for your work?
Never.
Never. Okay.
I said no. I don't. Like me, I don't like. No. The answer is no.
Okay.
Never.
And did you were teaching mainly because of the money? You were teaching mainly because of money?
Absolutely. It's a job.
Did you enjoy it?
I loved it.
Okay.
No, I mean, for me, if you like for an artist, you have to have a job. It's the very best job you can have. So,
Okay.
it's good.
Thank you.
Yes, please.
Think about the history of art education, and such as Yale University. It seemed like, for example, in the 50s, you threw paint on the wall and you had no choice.
Right.
As a teacher, I don't know where you taught, but did you have the freedom to teach as you wished?
Yes.
And what school?
Columbia College at Chicago.
And is that typical now, or does every school tend to have a different style of art education?
No one's allowed to do what I did anymore. It's just no. Like schools basically train all the students the same way. So if everyone teaches the same way, they'll make it, you know, they end up making the same art. Which is like, excuse me?
Right. And as an artist,
Yes, ma'am.
have you ever brought your artistic sensibility to a different medium, such as clay or glass or
Not yet. I'm in the process of like developing my first sculpture. No, I was trained like it's funny. Like people were trained before they were born before 1960. We were trained to do one thing really well. People born after 60 did everything: sculpture, movies, performance, installation, everything. So you know, so I'm not interested in doing all that stuff. I want to do one thing, and I want to like kick ass at that.
Yes, please.
Oh.
I'm prompting. You kind of in response to your influence of architecture.
He's an instigator, you know.
Do you want to talk about perhaps other disciplines, the influence of music, perhaps, or textiles, or?
Well, you know, I mean, the music is that. I'll say one thing about the music, is that, you know, a lot of people, I know a lot of, you know, avant-garde jazz musicians, et cetera, they're my friends for many, many years. And I'm really glad I never was a musician, because I don't want that in life, but I'll say that, like, some people think I'm influenced by it, by jazz music. I'm not influenced by it. We come from the same place. That's what I'll say to Carla, now that she's not listening to me. Yeah, but you know, like getting back to your question is that, you know, now that the music's out there, when you like the grid, let's say the grid is the score, and you follow the score, and then you innovate, you know, like from the grid. Understand me? Yeah, cool.
Which
Yes, please.
My question is that particular kind of question that have no question mark at the end. So it's like a comment. And it could seem pointless, but I've observed that you work with the grids, and when the reiteration, repetition, looping of some patterns is very similar. It's close to contemporary music.
What? Contemporary music,
yeah. That is based on the repetition of patterns. And when you observe this pattern from more distance, if you are close, you see the pattern. But if you observe from more distance, you see another pattern.
Right.
I observed that in your works, there is the same language. If you are very close to the painting, you see one pattern that is made by your address book or your ID card, right. But if you are far from the pattern, there is another message, and it's the same that you can observe in contemporary music and electronic music. Is made on the same language.
Good.
I see the point.
yeah, good. No, but getting back to the music elements, like for me, I really want my work to be viewed as like once you hear music, it's in the air, can never be captured again. I want my work to be that way, be seen that way. She had a question.
Yes.
Which kind of sensorial experience of Venice you will put in your grid?
My what?
Which kind of sensorial experience of Venice will you put in your grid?
I work slowly in terms of ideas, and I'm probably working out of Venice. I'll tell you what, if they invite me back again, it'll be in there, that's for sure.
Yeah, sure. Could I just say?
I'm not sure I will be able to express my question very well, but
Sure.
I'm trying.
Cool.
Are you happy everybody uses the word grid for your work? Is that something that sort of
good question.
Is it something that really comes out of you and you feel relevated when you do it?
Oh.
You feel free, or it's something imposed?
From the outside.
I'm talking about the word.
Yeah, the word.
Not the
Yeah, I got it. I got it. Yeah, it's not my word.
Which is your word?
Very good question.
It's too much.
Yeah,
Word,
yeah,
and
yeah,
it
yeah.
doesn't correspond to the word.
Yeah. That's a very good question because I didn't want to say that because for me, I'm trying hard, but I don't have language like for my work. I mean, if I had language for my work, I would be done. Like I don't have to make any more paintings. So I'm still looking for a language for my work. So, and in the studio, I saw everything. It's so clear, like for me in the studio. But this woman had a good question because it's like the grid, the grid's cool, but it's like me, grid is like the heart. It's just, it's just life. So I'm using the grid as life, as opposed to grid as thing. Good question, young lady. She'd probably think, I'm older than you. No, you're not.
Are there any? Is there anybody else who wants to ask something?
Go ahead, Caroline. I see your hand. No, Nick, teasing.
Yes.
No, I'm just gonna. I mean, but the point is that it's like I think I've done like 4 lectures in the last 10, 12 years. I mean, I just think that I really think that and I'm on holiday now, so I'm not in the studio. Every time you talk about your work, you lose a painting. You lose a painting. And that's or you might lose more than one. That makes sense to you? Yeah?
Yeah.
Because you're like, you're building up all these ideas that you have in your brain hidden somewhere.
So we won't be hearing you speak until the next
Next
year.
Venice. That's funny. Well, no. I mean, I really think that, like you said, that the architect, he said that, like he said, that the work speaks for itself, and I'm right there. But I'm like speaking now, so it's a lot.
Okay, so I think we ran out of time, and it's maybe also time for you to eat. You might be starving.
Yeah. I'm not starving. Okay.
So
I'm okay.
first of all, I want to thank you really very much for
welcome.
being here. It was a pleasure and an
welcome.
honor. I want to thank you for sharing so many things I know you don't do usually.
Right.
And I want to thank our guests for coming today.
Great.
And enjoy the exhibition and have a wonderful stay in Venice.
Thank you guys for
Thank you.
being here.
Fuori onda.